This is bonking. This is bonking. And this is bonking. Bonking and blowing up in your marathon is pretty much a rite of passage. It's a sign that you're willing to put it all on the line to achieve that PR. Trust me, it happens to the best of us. You can wear it as a badge of honour, or you can use it as an excuse to why you didn't have a good race. But the reality is that somewhere along the line, something went wrong that could have been prevented. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, sure. Sometimes you have to give it a go and hope for the impossible. But most of the time, you can make small adjustments and still get a really great outcome. By the end of this video, you'll be armed with everything you need to know to make sure you don't become this guy. We'll understand what bonking or hitting the wall actually is, what the factors are that can lead to it, and how to recognize if you're gonna bonk and what you should do. So what is bonking? Basically, it's a massive breakdown in your performance, which has been caused by depletion of glycogen stores and low blood glucose. And the low glycogen stores forces your body to switch from running on carbs to fats, which is much less efficient and means you need to slow down. A full-on bonk, like this one from Johnny Brownlee, is where your blood glucose levels are severely depleted as well. And that leads to dizziness, confusion, disorientation, and you just don't know what day of the week it is. Basically, your brain and your body have both bonked and are both going into shutdown mode to avoid any longer term damage. Some athletes get lucky and avoid the full brain bonk and low blood glucose by fueling really aggressively, but they still slow. Some recognize the warning signs early, take their medicine by slowing down, but still suffer. And some push through as much as they can with everything they have and end up in pieces at the side of the road. So what are the main factors that lead to bonking? Well, the first is pretty simple, and that's going out too fast and not pacing properly. And that's often because of a lack of understanding as to what your marathon pace actually is. I went deep into understanding how to figure out your marathon pace in this video here, so if you're a bit lost on that, go ahead and watch that video first. But to put it bluntly, thinking that you can run faster than your body is capable of on the day. Now, I say on the day because in training, you might be confident that you can hit the paces, but come race day, there can be a lot of different factors, external factors beyond your control. So if there's a huge headwind, if there's a high amount of heat or humidity, ton of hills, or if you're running at altitude, you need to factor that into your pacing. The perfect example is that optimal temperature for a run in a marathon is 8 to 12 degrees. That's 46 to 54 degrees Fahrenheit. But for every 1 degree, that's 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, that leads to between a 0.5 and 1.5% performance loss, even more if there's higher humidity. So you need to keep an eye on the weather in the build up to the race and make those adjustments. Now, a really good tool you can use, now it's back to our trusty VDOT calculator. So if I click through here to advanced features and I enter our event distance and our predicted time or our target time, so in my case, 2 hours 40, that gives us an equivalent pace of 6:06 a mile or 3:48 kilometers. But there you can click advanced features. So let's say, for example, the temperature on the day is going to target around 20 degrees Celsius. We calculate that. So it's going to give me an adjusted target time of 2 hours, 42 and 13 seconds. And that's a difference in pace of 0.03 per kilometer. So dropping from a 3:48 to a 3:51 kilometer. The other major factor is not executing a good enough nutrition and hydration strategy. A good carb load in the days building up will set you up for success, but you still need to make sure that you nail it on race day. Now, if you're unsure how to do that, watch this video, but don't wait until halfway to start drinking water and taking on gels. Start fueling early in the first 30 to 45 minutes and keep a steady schedule, keeping you topped up. Same with the water. So you want to balance water with electrolytes, especially sodium. So if it's hot, don't just sip fluids, drink enough, even if that means you have to stop at an aid station or carry a bottle with you. Taking on enough carbs in the race gives your body that steady stream of energy it needs. It helps protect your stored fuels and keeps your blood sugar stable so you can keep going strong and avoid hitting that wall and bonking later on. Plus, the other key thing here when you keep fueling is that you're not just feeding your muscles, you're also keeping your brain happy. Your brain relies on glucose too, and once that starts running low, your motivation and your focus can disappear fast. And that's why runners who don't fuel properly often feel foggy, get mentally drained before their legs even fully give out. And if you're not staying on top of your hydration, everything gets harder. Dehydration makes that mental fog even worse. So, how do you recognize if you're going to bonk or not? Well, check ins in the race are crucial. Every time you go past a major milestone, it's important to assess where your effort levels and your heart rate are relative to where they should be at that particular point in the race and adjust accordingly. So, if you're working harder than you need to be, then it's worthwhile dropping that pace slightly. And on the flip side, perhaps picking it up a bit. Although, if things are going well, I would be hesitant to pick it up that pace a bit earlier on and focus more on the negative splitting of the race in the back half. So at 5K, you should feel like it's just ticking along, maybe a 2 or 3 effort level out of 10. And if you're already pushing harder than that, you're probably going to have to pay for that a bit later. And by 10K, you honestly shouldn't feel like you're working that hard at all. Maybe a 4 out of 10. You should be in cruise mode, almost holding back a bit, and you shouldn't really feel as though the race has properly started yet. Now, at the halfway point, the half marathon point, you want to feel like your effort levels are at a 5 or 6 out of 10. You're working, but it's totally manageable. By 30, yeah, it's supposed to start feeling a bit tough. You're probably at a 7 or 8 out of 10 there. But the key is you're still in control. And if you've paced it right and fueled well, you should be able to hold it steady till the end. By checking in at the 5 and 10K mark, you're making sure that you're not overdoing it early on in the race. By halfway, when the race is starting to really get going, you're kind of doing an assessment of how much you've given to the race by that point, but also focusing on the back half of the race as well. And then when you hit 30, you're almost starting to count down how far there is to go, and you're purely focusing on what it's going to take to get you to the end. 35K, that's pretty much anyone's guess. I like hitting the 37-kilometer mark, and then I'll start thinking it's just a park run left. And then when you're in that final kilometer, you can always find that little something. So you haven't listened to any of that advice and you're halfway through the race and you're thinking you're going to bonk. What do? Guys, I'm loving the support from our community. And just a quick reminder, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments some of your war stories and if you've bonked before and how badly. I'd love to hear. Well, the first thing to do is to watch for early warning signs. So if you're getting dizzy, brain fog, find it difficult to make decisions, then it's an early bonking sign. Your pace slowing despite maintaining the same amount of effort, that's also a major warning sign. So it's best to slow down the second you recognize that and get some fuel on board and some hydration. Walk if you need to and fully reset. Compose yourself before you continue. Don't keep pushing the pace and increasing your effort unless you're confident that you can get to the finish. If you've fully bonked, your body will naturally stabilize once you've taken on enough water and enough carbs and mentally reset. And you'll actually be surprised, but you can quite often shuffle to the finish no matter what happens. Have a plan A, B, and C. It's no fun, and what's the point in doing all that training if you're not going to roll the dice? But sometimes it's not going to be your day to PR. It's just not. If you're well enough prepared and you're taking into account the variables we've run through, you should have a good understanding of whether there's a chance or not. If there's not, park your ego and be educated enough to make an informed decision to back off. Going into the race, you should have 3 goals. The A goal, the dream goal. Now, this is your best case scenario where everything clicks and comes together. It's ambitious, but it's realistic based on your training, and it's what you're going for. But if at any point in the race you recognize it's not going to happen, the earlier you figure it out, the better. So it's time to suck it up and go with your B goal. Your B goal, that's where it's achievable with a bit of a margin for error. Or you would think that that's the most likely outcome going into the race. Now, the earlier you can recognize that you need to fall back to that option, the more chance you have of reaching it. Because your C goal should always be the ultimate fallback option of survival and finishing the race and what it will take to get you there. If you've bonked or you can't see yourself getting to the finish without bonking, your ultimate aim and the worst case scenario should be just to get to that finish line, no matter if you've got to walk. All that being said, if you have suffered an injury or risk affecting your long-term health for the sake of completing it, DNF, do not finish. There's no point in putting yourself into weeks or months of misery just for the medal at the end. They're not made of gold, and there's always next time. To wrap up, bonking is not fun. My biggest piece of advice is to focus on your effort and not your pace. Everything else fits around that. If you're putting in the right amount of effort relative to each part of the race that you're actually in, you're going to come home feeling like a champ no matter what your time is. It'll give you the best chance of being able to hit that A goal, or worst case scenario, the B goal. Ta-ra.